Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. So I have this vivid memory from the summer of 1992. I had one of my school friends over and we were just hanging out, and I remember my mom came up to us and she told us, you need to get out of the house, go do something outside. So we ran outside trying to figure out what kind of trouble we can get into, and my friend pulls out a Game Boy out of his backpack. Now I never owned a Game Boy, like to me this was a big deal, and on it he had Metroid 2, Return of Samus. And I remember how we sat outside under the blazing sun and we tried to play this game, and under direct sunlight it was just horrible, right? You can imagine. But it was such a fond memory, the way we were able to sneak outside, and my mom thought we were out there doing fun summertime activities, but really we were just playing video games outside. So in today's video, I'm going to try to show you how to recreate the feel of a classic Game Boy system and other handheld systems. I'm going to walk you through all the things that I like to do on my system in order to make it work perfectly. The aspect ratios I prefer to use, the different shaders I like to use, as well as a feature called ghosting, which allows you to recreate the feel of some of those old retro screens. So without any further delay, let's jump into it. So as always, linked below this video, I will have a written guide, which I will keep maintained with up-to-date information, and it's going to have all of my favorite screen settings on here. All of the things I'm going to talk about here, as well as updates in the future, will be happening all on this link. So regardless of what you hear in this video, make sure you go and check out that link too, because if any cool updates come out, I'm going to throw them in the written guide. And one of the best things about the written guide is I have an entire table that shows you specifically which system, which aspect ratio, and other settings that are ideal for that handheld system. So first thing you want to do is go to that first section on the written guide and go and download and install these overlays. So just click on that file here and it's going to download a zip file. Now these are overlays created by a Reddit user named JDanS. And within there you'll find a README file that'll walk you through all the instructions. But I'm going to show you how to do it in this video as well. So first thing you want to do is go into the BIOS folder in your SD card, and then create a new folder and call it Overlays. Then open up that folder and drag all these files, except for the README file, over into this folder. And if you look at these PNG files, they're basically borders that surround the actual ideal aspect ratio, which is known as an integer scale. So this creates these really nice borders and overlays over the ideal screen ratio for the system itself. Okay, so once you've moved them over, you're actually done doing any sort of installation. We're going to do everything else on the device. So go ahead and eject your card and put it back into your device. So I'm using ArcOS today, but this can also be done in 351 elec, and all those instructions are put in my written guide. But your first thing you want to do is just open up RetroArch without any game loaded. So just find RetroArch and open it up. So go into the Settings tab and find the Directory option. It's the very bottom option. Open that up and then go and find the On-Screen Overlay section. What we're going to do is point RetroArch to that Overlays folder that we created. So pick the Overlay section and then navigate to the location of your overlay file. So you want to go down to this slash folder, and then ROMs, and then BIOS, and then Overlays. And then select Use this directory. And that's it. Just go back to the main menu, then go to Configuration File, Save Current Configuration. At this point, you've told RetroArch to look in that folder for every overlay, and that's just going to make your job a lot easier. After that, you can just quit RetroArch. Okay, so let's start configuring some systems here. Let's start with Game Gear. So go ahead and open up any game, and then open up the RetroArch Quick menu. You can hit Select and X for this. So the first thing we want to do is make sure the screen is configured correctly for these overlays. So you want to go back to the main menu, then Settings, and then Video. And within here, select the Scaling section, and then change the aspect ratio to 1:1 PAR. And then also make sure you turn on integer scaling. This will give you square pixels and a pixel-perfect rendering of the original screen on the Game Gear. And while you're in here, make sure you go back to the video setting and make sure that bilinear filtering and RGA scaling are off. In general, you want those off for handheld systems anyway, and they're probably already off, but it's good to double check. Okay, so looking at the screen now, everything looks nice and crisp, but you can see you have a lot of big black borders around everything. And it feels a little bit like wasted screen space. So this is where we're going to add those overlays to give it a more original feel. So go back into that quick menu and select On-Screen Overlay. And make sure that Display Overlay is on, and then scroll down to the Overlay Preset section. And look, it's taking you right to that Overlays folder that we saved earlier. Now you have two overlay options with Game Gear. One is a little bit darker than the other. Let's start with the first one. So there you go. Now you have this like really subtle overlay that's over the screen itself that makes it feel a little bit more like you're holding a handheld system. So let's try the second overlay now. And there you go. It's a little bit brighter, and I actually prefer this one a little bit better because it's easier to see. But yeah, that's how you set up overlays. And I don't know what it is about these overlays, but it really kind of brings me back to playing these original systems. It really just kind of focuses my eyes on the screen, and then I don't really care about those bezels so much anymore. Okay, so once you've got everything configured the way you like it, let's go ahead and save everything. So you're going to go back into the quick menu, and you're going to go to overrides, and then you're going to want to do save content directory overrides. Because if you look, the core that it's using is the same core as the Genesis and Sega CD. So if you did a save core override, it would override the Genesis and Sega CD options, and you don't want to do that. So you just save the content directory overrides, which basically means every game in the Game Gear folder. And once you've done that, you're good to go. Go ahead and just quit out of RetroArch. So let's start up another game just to make sure it works. And there you go, you have that nice integer scaled screen as well as the bezel working. Okay, we've got one more trick we can do to make the screen look even better. Let's go back to the RetroArch quick menu. First thing we need to do is update shaders. So make sure that your device is connected online. Go down to Online Updater, and then find the section that says Update Shaders. And here, just give it a minute, it's going to download and then extract all these shaders. And you only have to do this one time. This is just a way to make sure you have all the shaders loaded onto your device, because depending on the firmware that you're using, it may not be available to you. Okay, once you've got them loaded up, go ahead and start up the quick menu again, and then go into the shaders section. And then scroll down to Load Shader Preset. From here, pick the GLSL Shaders folder, and then go to the Handhelds folder. And all the shaders you want for the handheld systems are going to be in this one folder. Now there are two shaders I like to use in particular that give a really nice LCD screen. One is called Bevel. Let's try that one first. So all you do is just hit A to select it, and then you can go back and check it. Now it's kind of hard to see on the screen here, but you've basically created a nice LCD palette over the existing overlay and screen. So it just makes it feel a little bit more like an old school LCD display. I really like it. And it looks really good when you have these square pixels as well as the integer scaling setup. Another one I really like is called LCD3X, and it's in that same handhelds folder. Now this one's a little bit darker of an LCD grid, and so you may like that one even more. It's really going to be up to personal preference at this point. Now one thing you can also do is you can adjust the shaders. So if you go back into that shaders options, and you go to shaders parameters, you can change the brightness of the LCD grid. So for example, LCD3X is set at 4.0, but I kind of like it at 6.0. So if you want to make it a little bit lighter, that's how you would change it. And there you go, it's just a tad bit lighter, but that's my perfect setting. I like it at 6.0. Now to save your shaders configuration, you're going to actually do that a little bit differently. You're going to go into the shaders options and go into the save section. And it's going to be the same thing here. You're not going to want to make a save core preset because that's going to affect like Genesis and Sega CD games. Instead, you want to make sure you save content directory preset. You can also do a save game preset. So if you have specific settings you like to use on a certain game, that's how you would save it there. I'm just going to save it across the board for all Game Gear, so I'm going to do the save content directory preset. And that's it. You've basically configured your Sega Game Gear perfectly. Now you can follow these exact same instructions for other systems. For example, here's Neo Geo Pocket Color. And as you can see, this one has a little bit different of an overlay, but everything else is the same. I'm using integer scaling. I have the LCD shader going on. I really like this look. Now that being said, Game Boy is an entirely different beast, so I'm going to focus on this for the rest of the video. Now setting up everything is the same. You want to set up integer scaling, 1:1 aspect ratio, make sure bilinear filtering is off, and RGA scaling is off. All those are the exact same with Game Boy. And same thing here, you just set that on-screen overlay for Game Boy. And there you go. It looks great. You know, I really like this overlay on the Game Boy in particular. It really fills me with a lot of nostalgia, especially when I'm playing Metroid 2 like this. But there's a bit more work we can do to really tweak these settings. So first thing we want to do is we want to go into the options setting in the quick menu and change the colorization. So go ahead and turn on Game Boy colorization on and turn it to internal. And under internal palette, you have dozens of different options. Special one is my favorite. It gives you a really kind of light green feel to everything. So let me show you how that one looks. There you go. So I really like the look of this. It's not perfectly true to the original Game Boy, but for me it's the best balance. Now for example, we can change this internal palette to anything else. Let's try the DMG one. So that's going to be the original dot matrix Game Boy look. And there you go. To me, this green is a little bit too intense while I'm playing, and that's why I prefer the other one called Special One. But play around with it, figure out whatever you like. Personally, I just like the Special One. Okay, so now let's apply an LCD shader. It's the same process here. You go into the Handhelds folder. Personally, I like the LCD3X one for this. And just like before, I like to brighten the LCD up to 6.0. Okay, so we're looking pretty good here, right? So we have this nice Game Boy overlay, we have an LCD screen over it, and we have that perfect integer scaling. On top of that, we have that Special One colorization, which adds that really nice original Game Boy feel to everything. So I have one more trick up my sleeve, and this is called ghosting. So if you look while I'm jumping here, it basically has very crisp and clear picture, but that's not how it looked on the original Game Boy. So we're going to add a little bit of ghosting to everything. So you go back into the quick menu, you go into options again, and find the section that says interframe blending. Now within there you have two different LCD ghosting options. I like the one that's called accurate. It has the most pronounced ghosting. So go ahead and turn that on and then go back to the game. Now if you see while I'm jumping, it has a little bit of an echo to it, and it's very subtle, but when you're playing it, I think that you're going to notice the difference. Let me show you them side by side. So the one on the left has no ghosting and the one on the right does. And you can see the way the bullet kind of has a longer trail on it than the one on the left. I know we're really nitpicking here, but I really do think this subtle difference really enhances your gameplay. Same thing here with jumping. You can see the one on the right has a little bit more of an echo as the character jumps. So yeah, that's my ideal settings for the Game Boy. Now remember, you can go in and change all sorts of different color palettes, you can change the ghosting amount, you can make all sorts of different changes as you like. Really, this video is just meant to give you the tools to allow you to configure your system to make it work the way you want to see it. And like I mentioned earlier, in my written guide, I have a table that shows you specifically all of the settings that I like to use. So if you want to use that as a reference chart, you're more than welcome to do it, or figure out your own way. Okay, last thing, let me show you off a little bit of Game Boy Color gameplay here. So I like this one a lot too. You know, it has that really subtle LCD power light on the left there, but other than that, it just has that regular black overlay. Now, if you really wanted to go crazy, you could actually just use the original Game Boy overlay like you see here with Link's Awakening. Or the original, it's really up to you. Alright everyone, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, I had a lot of fun kind of digging into all these handheld settings and really kind of figuring out what specifically I liked most when it came to handheld systems on the RG351P and the RG351M. And I hope this is helpful for you as you try to figure out the best settings for your system too. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful for you, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.